I'm so incredibly glad a movie got announced for this show, because I fear this video would be me low-key just being a hater the entire time. Hello, my name is Jasmine. I talk about books and TV shows on the internet. Today, we're going to be talking about the Summer I Turned Pretty series finale. We're breaking down the episode. We're talking about the book differences, which may or may not be the entire ending, talks of the movie, and just like a general review of the series as a whole. So all roads lead to Paris, as the description on this episode states. We start with Conrad showing up in Paris, uninvited, mind you. And I will let you know right now, because I'm going to make it very clear that I am in fact Team Conrad. But I do think him showing up to Paris uninvited was a little bit crazy and a little bit dishonest, because he says, I'm just here for your birthday. And it's like, Conrad, be so serious. Zero shot, you're just there for her birthday. In fact, he makes it pretty clear later on in the episode that Jer knows. So it's like, hey, Jer knows we're not doing anything sneaky, because I am here with more than one intention. One being, happy birthday, Belly. The other one being, we'll get there. Belly's reaction is both warranted and understandable, but kind of underwhelming. She takes his bag, goes inside, and leaves him out there, right? And at first I was like, this is kind of rude of her. And then I started freaking out. And I was like, you know what? The girl did need a minute. So I forgive her for that. It wasn't her just being rude. It was her being a little freaked out. And then they do a bunch of touristy stuff. And this, I have a complaint with, the same way I've had complaints in the other episodes, where it feels like it's a lot of nothing. I feel like they could have montaged a little bit quicker, because the conversations they have aren't really meaningful till we get to the end. There's maybe one conversation in here that actually has substance. And it's when they go out and they look out in the city, and Belly kind of mentions for the first time that she did have a little bit of moments of struggling in Paris. The example she gives is finding laundry detergent was a lot harder than she thought, because people couldn't understand her pronunciation of laundry detergent. I'm not going to attempt it, because I will in fact butcher it. In this conversation, Conrad also says, like, Paris never stood a chance because of who you were, and you were always scrappy, and our moms loved that about you, which is good, because again, we've established that like Paris helped her find herself once again. She had lost herself in the relationship with Jeremiah. So that's great, because we established that they had become codependent of each other, so now they're their own people. And she found herself in Paris. He found himself in a kitchen, because we have gone full Jeremiah in his chef era arc. There in Paris, we skip to a conversation between Denise and Jeremiah, where she lets him know that she's going to San Francisco, because her and Steven finally got their seed funding. It's a happy moment up until Taylor walks in and finds this out through them as opposed to from Steven, which then brings to the storyline that I was very annoyed with in this episode, and it's Taylor being upset because Steven has not told her about this. And again, I enjoyed the storyline on its own, and I could see its importance for both of the characters and like a message that's being sent there. Yet I don't think you save that for your series finale. There's too much going on already. We didn't need that part added. This could have happened last episode. They could have gotten back together before. In fact, we really didn't need that whole Taylor, Steven, Denise love triangle, because it truly went nowhere. Truly went nowhere, because for so long, Denise and Steven are like built up as like, wait, do they have something going on here? They're both like intelligent. They have the same interests. They could work really well. They kiss, and then it's like, oh, we both kind of hated this. So all of that was for nothing. You know what else was for nothing? Taylor's mom's story arc. Because, again, if we're talking about Steven and Taylor, you would think, okay, they're putting so much emphasis on Lucinda and Steven being someone who helps her. And, Taylor has a couple questions, and he's like, but you know what? I don't want you to be the one to help my mom. I want us to do it on our own. Cool. You would think that Lucinda would help Taylor and Steven get back together, but no, she doesn't. Not relevant at all. Taylor and Steven just kind of like get back together seemingly on their own without the help of anyone. So it's like, you could have cut out Lucinda's entire storyline. Who knows how much time that would save? And you can build on other storylines that would be more interesting and have more substance. Shrink the Denise, Steven, Taylor love triangle so much shorter. And again, you could focus on other things, because I do think to a certain degree that love triangle had a little bit of importance for Taylor as a character, along with for Steven as a character, because Taylor does make a point to say, Denise, you are who I pictured him to always have ended up with. And we do have that moment in which Taylor and Steven tried to see, like, could we just work as friends, before they realize that that's in fact not possible. And Steven makes a point to say, Taylor, I think you are a wonderful friend, how come you can't be a wonderful girlfriend when it comes to how much you care for someone and showing that? And we have the realization that she's like, I don't know how to do that with the guy I'm dating because I've never done that before. So yes, important for their characters. Those storylines could have been so much more condensed. We find out here that Jeremiah was supposed to be hosting a dinner, but the location for it needs to be switched into the beach house at Cousins. He's a little apprehensive about having it there, but ultimately Taylor and Denise are like, no, I think this could work. But Taylor on her mind is still like, oh my god, my boyfriend is moving to California without me. I just moved to Boston for him. He thinks I'm going to move again. To which Denise is like, I don't think he thinks that yet. She's like, oh my god, he's breaking up with me. Which again, two very understandable reactions and thoughts. Maybe not the time, but not even this towards Taylor. This is more towards the writers. We could have done this in the last episode. Taylor and Denise are setting up outside of the house while Jeremiah's cooking his cold tomato soup. I honestly can't remember what it is. I just remember Taylor saying it tasted like cold tomato soup. When Steven shows up and Taylor is pissed. So naturally she decides to have a little bit of fun with him because this is Taylor after all. So she tells him, you know what, I want to paint the living room. And he's like, okay. And she's like, I want a cat. He's like, a cat. But this gets solely interrupted because then Taylor finds out her entire wait staff has quit. So she has to figure that out. Let's jump to Paris, why don't we? Belly had invited Conrad to her birthday dinner. So she's getting ready for that and he's in her apartment. He's looking around and sees the pictures of her and her friends in Paris, specifically her and Benito. And here you start to get a jealous Conrad who's now realizing the possibility that she might have moved on and it's like a real thing. He did see them on the scooter, but like that could have been anything, right? This is more concrete proof that it's like, oh, maybe it wasn't just like a friend giving a friend a ride. He also sees Junior Mint, and we get the Junior Mint flashback from his perspective. We had previously seen it from hers, where she sees it as like, oh, he had a thing for the girl at the ring toss. That's why he wanted to be there. But in reality, we see that he is very adamant about getting this bear for Belly and honestly pays the girl at the ring toss no attention. So they make it to the dinner, and Gemma and Max are like, Isabel, who's your friend? And she says Conrad, and they're like, oh, this is the Conrad. Which honestly, because I mentioned this in the previous video, that like if me and my friends were hanging out and this random girl came up and like told us her Conrad and Jeremiah lore, she'd be the talk of the town in our group for decades. So the fact that I would be meeting a character from her story would be crazy. I overall found this entire scene and the one of them at the actual dinner to be hilarious because I love the idea of like characters talking between each other and like character C has no clue what's going on. I have like hypothesized that Conrad in fact did know what they were saying. I don't know what I would enjoy more if he has no clue, like this is all for me, or if he was in on it, and that adds like the extra layer there. Celine mentions like, oh, if this is the hot one, like what did the other one look like? Because everyone always says that Jeremiah is the pretty one. And again, I don't know if I completely agree with that, but that's a topic for another day. No, actually, let's talk about it right now. Because to me, okay, when I was watching season 1, he's on the beach and he's giving like 2013 Harry Styles, and I was sold. But yeah, Conrad to me was the pretty one. Benito says like, oh, we've heard all about you. I'm pretty sure Conrad expected. I don't think this story would go unnoticed. Like if people ask, Belly, why are you here? She wouldn't be like, oh, I decided to take a trip to Paris. She'd spill, and I would be eating up her spillage. That sounded kind of gross. I didn't mean for it to. I'm a nosy person. I had a conversation with my friend the other day about how, like, I sometimes want to ask questions that I know that I shouldn't ask, but, like, I'm thinking it, and I don't ask them because I understand, like, boundaries and respect, but, like, I do be thinking them. Jem also says, like, I thought what you did was so romantic, and honestly, I did too. But I know that maybe, just maybe, if this was happening in real life, I would be like, this is so messy, this is so inappropriate. But because it's a TV show, I ate it up again. You know what? I feel like there's a couple scenarios in which I'd be rooting this on. I feel like if I had a friend who I knew she was like hung up on this guy for the longest, oh, that is messy. I was like actually picturing it with people that I know, and I'm like, I don't know that it would cheer this on, but I might under the right circumstances. And Benito's trying to be the logical one here to be like, hey, Conrad, what really are your intentions to be here? Because I think we all know that it's far beyond just, oh, it's Belly's birthday tomorrow, so I wanted to go because I'm going to a conference in Brussels. Brussels? You could take a direct flight there. And he's like, yeah, I could. But I really wanted to see Belly. because as Celine very eloquently said, that Conrad in fact was the birthday present that she will be unwrapping later. I'm going to connect these two scenes, but in between this we do hop over to the cousin's house, but I want to talk about the rest of this dinner. Belly eventually moves from sitting next to Benito to sitting next to Conrad, where he says like, oh, is Benito not your boyfriend? Because he just heard them talking about how she dumped him. And she's like, I never said that he was. He's like, oh, there's an opening. This is wonderful news for my dear friend Conrad Fisher. She's also smoking. And, he makes it a point to say, like, it messes with your white matter, which may or may not have been something she said back in season 1. We do see that little flashback, to which she responds with, do you memorize everything I say? Which is what he told her that first time when she saw him smoking and told him that it was, like, not cool. The difference here is she gets upset in season 1 and, like, swims away, whereas here, he says yes. And I did scream a little when I saw this. Back in Cousins, Taylor lets Jeremiah know that something went wrong with the seafood, so she's going to go back into town to grab some. Steven also finds out that Taylor now knows about San Francisco, and Adam shows up with, you guessed it, the champagne. Jeremiah makes some comments about how he did not invite his dad because being here gives him like bad vibes. He feels like a loser again, to which Denise is like, you need to not let what happened that summer take this house away from you, and for you to use that as something to hold you down for the rest of your life. Like, it happened, let it be, let's move on. In the backyard, you have Laurel, you have Adam, and you have John talking at a table, and we find out that Adam and Kaylee have broken up. Again, we'll bring up the fact that some storylines in this show felt completely useless when it comes to the series finale. Because why was the Kaylee storyline introduced? In the book, you have Kaylee actually being someone who helped Belly with the wedding planning. If you wanted to introduce Katie, use her for that. Have her show up with Adam for this. Maybe have them break up here. Maybe have them have a conversation on screen about how she's like, you know what, this makes me feel uncomfortable. This isn't working. This is not something I wanted. Maybe have him come to the realization of like, what am I doing? Do I want to be with her, or do I just feel better having her be the one after Suzannah because I feel guilty for having cheated? Something. Add substance to this storyline. We also find out that Laurel and John not a thing anymore. Again, why was that included in the show if there was going to be no payoff to that? When you could have just brought back the previous Laurel love interest, Cleveland. Do we remember him? He was the author who had Conrad helping him with the boat. That could have been fun. He seemed like a great character. Or even hear me out, because she doesn't have to end up with a rebound after her divorce. Give her a new love interest for this season, or hey, don't give her one at all. Because why bring the potential of Belly's parents getting back together if you're not going to go through with it? And even if you're not going to go through with it, why not show us the conversation that they have where they realize that this is not meant to be? Unless they're saving it for the movie. And you will realize that there are many things that could be potentially being saved for the movie, which doesn't necessarily make it a good thing. Now let's go back to Paris as they sing Belly happy birthday. Before that, Conrad gives her a little bit of sand that he says he took to California to make him feel better when he was feeling homesick. And something that is mentioned, because we do see Belly's birthday 3 different years, it is that Conrad is always with her and that her wishes always revolved around him. But in this version, he's already here. The wish has come true. So what does her birthday wish contain? Because is him being there enough, or does she have to do some unpacking? And the answer is she has to do some unpacking, which she eventually understands and does towards the end of the episode. That's going to take her a little bit. So let's keep talking about Belly and Conrad. As they're walking down the street, they have a conversation about how he believed that originally she was in Paris kind of to punish herself for everything that happened. And it doesn't point to say, you might see yourself as someone who came in and like destroyed our home and destroyed our relationship. And by our, I mean his and Jeremiah. But like, the home was already wobbly. The structure was not secure. You didn't cause this. And you can't blame yourself for stuff that was out of your control. Just like how he is realizing that promises they made 5 years ago are not meant to be kept if it is not healthy, if it is not possible. And maybe, just maybe, it was too much pressure to be put on literal children. And a lot of people have pointed out that like Suzannah low-key was a villain for what she made these kids promise on her deathbed. And it's like, what's too much pressure added to them of from childhood, little Belly being told by Suzannah, you're destined for one of my boys. That now she almost feels like, am I? Do I? Or is it just like I was told over and over and over again that I started to believe it? This is the scene where Conrad also makes a point to say, I told Jeremiah that I'm here, which officially kind of opens the door for BellyConrad. Belly still to this point does not want to lose Jeremiah completely, because in many ways these two plus Suzannah were her family, were her childhood. So to completely cut him off, having also lost Suzannah, she is saying goodbye to a large portion of her childhood. And we do have that connection to like little Belly later in the episode, and she has to kind of come to terms with accepting her inner child to be able to accept love. Keeping on the topic of love, let's go to Steven and Taylor, who are in Jeremiah's kitchen arguing before he's like, you have me tired. Go on out and have a conversation like adults. I can't even blame him because it was very annoying. You know, Steven makes a point to say, I can't ask you to move to California for me when I just asked you to move to Boston. And she's like, whoa, to move for you? You think I don't have any autonomy in this? You think I just moved to Boston for you without any thought of myself, which is not like Taylor. And again, I appreciate the comment and the importance of words here, because language does very much matter. Because she says she's open to moving to California, not for him, but with him. Again, language, very important. They would be moving together for their well-being of their relationship, for the possibilities in their careers, for a new location of their happiness. It's not her like throwing away her entire life and being like, I'm moving up there just because a boy told me to. Like that's not what she's doing. So they make up. And again, I say this could have happened in the previous episode. Now let's go inside to Jeremiah and Denise as he's finishing up a cake, and she tries and she's like, oh my god, this is amazing. And he's like, oh, but it's not like saving lives. To which her response is, oh no, the eldest brother is in med school. Someone call a ambulance, which is so, oh my god, finally someone told him, like, stop this little pity party. You're annoying us. It's like your constant comparison of yourself to Conrad is the reason you are even being compared to him. Like, no one ever brings up Conrad and his issues to be like, Jeremiah would never. Because Conrad, when he's going through something, isn't like, oh, but Jeremiah, like, he doesn't even care really about Jeremiah when it comes to his own failures, because he understands that he's his own individual, whereas Jeremiah does not, and it makes him kind of insufferable. So here we do have the first Jeremiah and Denise kiss. And I mentioned in the previous video that I actually ended up liking Jeremiah and Denise more than I expected to. I hated this for her the entire season because I had seen the spoilers, and when it finally happened, I didn't hate it as much. Her and Nepo Baby kind of do work a little bit, okay? Because I think she has the personality that works for him in the way that she will kind of like bring him back to earth and be like, not everything's about you. The world doesn't revolve around you and your issues. Get it together. She's not going to let him sit in his little pity party. But how good is this relationship for her? I don't know. I guess we'll see in the movie. He goes out, does his little speech, thanks everyone for coming, and Adam and him have a conversation. Oh my god. There was a sentence that Adam said that I got like whiplash from it. I was like, because his voice sounded so much like Conrad's that I was like, oh my god. Like, the casting for this family is so good. It's so good. Adam makes a point to say, you know, like, I am proud of you. It always happened. I think I just need to be working on saying it to you a little bit more. And you have like that little sentimental moment we kind of had with him and Conrad in the previous episode. So they're trying to like show Adam isn't a horrible father. Still don't buy it. I mean, I guess he's doing the best that he can, but the best that he can is still quite mediocre. Going back to Paris, we have Belly and Conrad slow dancing, and they start talking about prom and how she was kind of a brat and she apologizes for it. And he's like, you know what? I could have tried a little harder. I've always been on the side of Belly annoyed me at prom, because your boyfriend's mom is literally on her deathbed and you're really feeling like, oh my god, he forgot my corsage. It's giving, Kim, there's people that are dying.
My diamond earring came off in the ocean and it's gone. Kim, there's people that are dying.
Like, I can hear the 2020 graduation kids be like, I didn't get a prom. And also, listen, it wasn't even her senior prom. It was her junior prom. I'm sorry. To me, that of Belly really annoyed me, okay? So I'm glad that she's able to be like, you know, maybe it wasn't that deep. So then they kiss, and we have Dressed by Taylor Swift starting to play. And then they keep kissing in literally everywhere, including in a taxi. That poor taxi driver, I'm so serious. In the stairwell, they make it to her bedroom, and you had women across America screaming, crying at their TVs during this scene. And I won't be lying that say I fell off my couch.
About this.
Okay. If you want to watch a full reaction, it's right there. So clearly it was written for the female gaze. You know, I saw a TikTok the other day that it's like two girls watching and they're like, hee hee. And then it cuts to a guy being like, huh? Just didn't get it. And I just kept thinking, why would a man be there? Why would a man be there? How do you explain this feeling to a man? And the thing is, you can't. You literally can't. I'll insert it.
Why didn't she respond? It'd be like me too.
So now we go into Belly's little freak out moment because she makes a comment to say, you know, I used to wish for you every birthday. And he's like, now you're stuck with me. And you see Belly being like, wait, am I ready for this? I'm kind of freaking out. You know, I have a life here. I have a life here. You can't intrude it. And he's like, I know. She's like, you have a conference. And he's like, I know. You should leave. And he's like, well, I can just, you know, take a little train. She's like, oh, okay. And then she goes to the restroom. She gets texts from Annika wishing her happy birthday. One from her dad wishing her happy birthday. One from Sky with happy birthday cuz I didn't know that her and Sky were still tight. Also, Sky is like, hey, if she's not gonna end up with one brother, she's gonna end up with the other. So we're gonna be cousins-in-law regardless. She gets a happy birthday text from Steven and one from Taylor. She gets this text at 4:04 a.m. But Paris is 6 hours ahead of Eastern Standard Time, which means that if it's 4 in Paris, it is in fact 10 where everyone else is. Maybe Sky. Sky is in California, right? But even then, that wouldn't be midnight for them or for Belly. So why she gets all of these back to back to back to back to back at 4:04 a.m. is a mystery to us all. So after she gets out of the restroom, she's now like sitting on her bed being like, so when's the next train? And he's like, I don't know, a couple hours. She's like, so why are you here? And he's like, I wanted to see you. And then he tells her that he loves her. And she responds with, and for a moment I was like, oh my god, you fucking bitch. Oh, should I let the story how much do I want to share with the internet? Let's just say, has a similar scenario happened in which I was like, okay, how do you want me to respond to that? Yes. I should cut this out. You don't need to know all about me. Yeah, so anyways, I kind of related to Bella a little bit because sometimes people will tell you that and you're like, okay, and you would think that you'd know how to handle it better because did it happen twice? Yes. Granted, one was not face to face, so I was able to handle it better. But it is an interesting question to ask. To which he responds, I want to know if you feel the same way. And sometimes, just like, again, speaking from personal experience, the shock is so strong that you're like, I almost don't know what to say. I really should cut all this out. Anyways, back to Belly and Conrad. That's what we're all here for. He says, like, do you not love me anymore? And she's like, well, I don't know if I do because I do or because I feel like I'm supposed to. And he mentions, like, you know what? I don't love you because I was told I was supposed to when I was like 7. And then he says the line, I've changed everything about myself, but the only thing that has ever changed is the fact that I love you. And that to me had me screaming, kicking, crying. Not actually, but metaphors. She makes a very clear point to say, like, the only reason you spent summer with us during what would have been season 1 is because your mother got sick and you decided not to go to football practice. Would you have even looked at me twice had it not been for that? Because in her head, his interest in her starts what would have been season 1, whereas from him, we know that that is in fact not true, and we see that through the flashbacks, but her perspective of the flashbacks shown by the Junior Mint flashback are different than his, aka she's not a reliable narrator. And also the perspective of a 16-year-old girl is crazy. Like, you really are just like in your own bubble, you know? She has, you know what honestly is kind of a very valid question. Because from her perspective, again, in the mind of Belly, she says, maybe you only love me because your mom wanted you to. And now that she's dead, you feel like you kind of owe this to her. So what if I do and my feelings are real, but yours are not? Yours are almost a sense of guilt. Because again, as we've established, in Belly's mind, their relationship the first time around, he didn't care about her the way that she did for him. So she's like, he was able to get over it. I was not. I was out of my mind in love. His feelings were just not the same. They were not the same because he was able to break it off so easily. Because again, she's in Bellyland. Her perspective of the situation is skewed. So he leaves. And this is when Belly sees the picture of herself when she was little. And she has to accept and love her inner child. And says, you know, I wanted to believe that I had changed, that I'm not the same girl that I was, but I am still her. And was she so bad? She followed her heart no matter what. And despite all her mistakes, I have to believe that she's still worthy of love. And then you hear Out of the Woods start to play. She has brown hair and brown eyes, and she will always love Conrad for sure. So she runs after him. By the looks of it, without a phone, a wallet, keys. Not me again saying I saw a TikTok on this, because at this point it's becoming like, girl, do you do anything else besides watch TikTok? Yes, I do. But it said that like growing up in many ways is becoming a version of your 14-year-old self and loving her this time around. And honestly, I am realizing that like, oh my god, I literally am just me at 14. It's like 10 extra years of age. But like, I'm accepting and rejoicing in the cringe this time around. So eventually, after running through town, grabbing a taxi, running through the airport, the bus terminal, it's a train station, and into the bus, she finds Conrad. And she says, her little infinity necklace on, mind you, I choose you if your infinite world, every version of me lives every version of you. And that is very sweet. It also kind of, someone pointed out that it was like, if I overheard this conversation, I'd be like, what do you mean I choose you or my own free will? Like, is this Stockholm Syndrome? Now when I go back and rewatch it, I can't unpicture that. People really ruin stuff on the internet for you. It's that damn phone. So they kiss and we flash to cousins where everyone's having like a dinner together. And then we eventually see that Belly and Conrad make it back to cousins, but not on that night. In fact, she says, I didn't make it home that summer, but I eventually did go back. They drive up into the house, they get in, and then they open the back doors and they're standing like right here. That's not giving series finale, because they zoom out from here and then you see that like actually their house isn't like going into the beach, which I vaguely remembered them. Like there was like a little way down here and they'd go to the beach, but like it wasn't a beach, it was a pier. Side note, like not important. I'm sure it was like a different exit that I just completely missed. But they go to the credits and you're like, oh, okay, the credits. And then you get Christmas in Paris and you're like, an epilogue? But it's not the wedding? So as cute as that was, it felt unfulfilled, like something was missing, because it in fact was the last chapter of the book, non-existent in the show. Will it make it onto the movie? Perhaps. We don't really know. They really haven't given us much information as to when this movie is coming out, how long it's going to be, what the plot of it is, and why they chose to make one as opposed to just adding more episodes into the show and having them come out once a week up until that point. Because yeah, this show feels unfinished. Like I finished it. Like it's no longer on my Prime list. Like it's done. But is it? No, because it has a movie coming out. But they're two disjointed things. Now, like I don't get it. Like, could they not have just done a 14 episode season? Like if they really needed those extra 3 hours, even though I don't think it's going to be a 3-hour movie, could they not just have taken out useless storylines that we've already established to in fact make this a 11 episode season? Yeah, they probably could have. So it's like, was it like monetary reasons? Was it like, I want to make more money off this franchise? Probably. This is a total sign up because I know it's going on Prime, but like this for a theatrical release would have been kind of fun. Like a series finale, but like in the theaters. If you were going to make it a movie, that would have been kind of fun. Like you could grab your girls and your florals, or whatever they said about that one Colleen Hoover movie. This movie now will eventually be seen as the series finale of the show, is what it feels like, because like I said, there was a couple of things missing. So now the question becomes like, if this movie does not meet all of our expectations, will we now be able to like shit talk the series finale with peace? Because when I first finished it, the announcement of the movie had not come out. So I was like, this low-key sucks. This is low-key horrible. This is high-key horrible. This is not what I wanted. This is not what I felt like would be good as a series finale. But because the movie got announced, I've given it some grace. I've accepted that like what would have been an epilogue is probably going to be in that film. Now, if it's not, will all my distaste for it come back? Probably. So what is missing from the book that could potentially make it onto the movie? Let me tell you, a couple years later. Dearest Belly, right now I am picturing you today on your wedding day, looking radiant, lovely, the prettiest bride there ever was. I picture you about 30 or so, a woman who has had lots and lots of adventures and romances. I picture you marrying a man who is solid and steady and strong, a man with kind eyes. I am sure your young man is completely wonderful, even if he doesn't have the last name Fisher. Ha! You know I could not have loved you more if you were my own daughter, my Belly, my special girl. Watching you grow up was one of the great joys of my life. My girl who ached and yearned for so many things. A kitten you could name Margaret. Rainbow roller skates. Edible bubble bath. A boy who would kiss you the way Red kissed Scarlet. I hope you found him, darling. Be happy. Be good to each other. All my love always, Suzannah. Oh, Suzannah, if you could see us now. We were wrong about a couple of things. I'm not 30 yet. I'm 23, almost 24. She would have been older in the show because at the start of this book, she's 19, but by the epilogue, she's 24. They got aged up in the TV show. After Jeremiah and I broke up, he went back to live in the fraternity house, and I ended up living with Annika after all. Junior year, I studied abroad and went to Spain, where I did have lots and lots of adventures. Spain is where I got my first letter from him. Real letters, written by hand, not emails. I didn't write him back, not at first, but they still came once a month, every month. The first time I saw him again, it was another year, at my college graduation. And I just knew my young man is kind and good and strong, just like you said. But he doesn't kiss me like Rhett kissed Scarlett. He kisses me even better. And there's one more thing you were wrong about. He does have the last name Fisher. I am wearing the dress my mother and I picked out, creamy white with lace cap sleeves and a low back. My hair that we spent an hour pinning up is falling out of a side bun, and long wet strands of hair flying around my face as we run to the car in the pouring rain. Balloons are everywhere. My shoes are off. I am barefoot, holding his gray jacket over my head. He's got one high but not too high heel in each hand. He runs ahead of me and opens the car door. We are just married. Are you sure? He asks me. No, I say, getting in. Everyone will be expecting us at the reception. We shouldn't keep them waiting. But then again, it's not like they can start without us. We have to dance the first dance. Stay, by Maurice Williams and the Zodiacs. I look out the window and there's Jed across the lawn. He has his arms around his date. Our eyes meet. He gives me a small wave. I wave back and blow him a kiss. He smiles and turns back to his date. Conrad opens the car door and slides into the driver's seat. His white shirt is soaked through. I can see his skin. He's shivering. He grabs my hand, locks my fingers into his, and brings it up to his lips. Then let's do it. We're both wet already. He turns on the ignition and then we're off. We head for the ocean. We hold hands the whole way. When we get there, it's empty, so we park right on the sand. It's still raining. I jump out of the car, hitch up my skirt, and call out, "Ready?" We run towards the water, tripping in the sand, screaming and laughing like little kids. At the last second, he picks me up like he's carrying me across the threshold. If you dare try and belly flop me right now, you're going down with me, I warn. My arms tight around his neck. I'll go anywhere you go, he says, launching us into the water. This is the start. This is the moment it becomes real. We are married. We are infinite. Me and Conrad. The first boy I ever slow danced with, ever cried over, ever loved. And that is the end. So the things this future movie could bring us would include a graduation, the BellyConrad wedding, and Suzannah's letters. 3 things we have yet to see and I really wanted in this finale. What will this movie be? Because it can't just be them planning the wedding. We already saw them plan a wedding for a whole season. A wedding for a different couple, but like still can't be her life in Paris because we already saw them in the previous 2 episodes. Could it be like them trying to navigate a long distance relationship? Maybe. Could it have her struggling with a little bit of school, what she's going to do after school, her graduation, something of that like early 20s chunk of your life? Sure, that could potentially be there. Would we see Steven and Denise and now Taylor in San Francisco? Just Jeremiah join them. What happened with Laura? Was she writing more books? What was the whole thing about John and his antacids and how people thought that like that was going to have some sort of discussions about him having an illness because they like made a point to it. And then one else also mentioned like heart disease, and it's like, what were all these little nuggets for? Do we see Lucinda now have like a successful hair salon? Or are we getting none of that? Are we just dropping those storylines the same way this show dropped Annika? Because what happened to Annika? I still don't. Where did she go? A big thing that I was upset about when it came to this finale is that we don't see Belly interact with anyone from back home in the show besides Conrad. Like, there was still so much in the air with literally everyone else that it's like we just didn't get any of that. And again, I would love that to be in the movie, but I don't think the movie's picking up right where this left off. If it is picking up right where they left off once we zoom out from here, does that mean that Belly never spoke to anyone else afterwards? Like, we do see her and Taylor have their little moment in the previous episode, but I feel like there's some conversations there that were not had that maybe needed to be. Same thing with Steven. Her and her mom, we never got to see them again. I still feel like Steven and Conrad could have had another scene together to make me feel like truly the past is in the past when it comes to them. I just feel like this show needed to end with that dinner that everyone had at Cousins. It was great. It was great. But you needed Belly and Conrad to be there. You need like a big scene like that to have the finale. The only other potential ending that I could see this show having is if we go way, way, way into the future and you have like Belly going in, like an adult Belly being like, they're here to Conrad as he's like fixing the hydrangeas, and you have Jeremiah, Denise, and their kids, or like Steven and Taylor and theirs coming in to spend their summers at cousins, like a full circle moment from the first episode to the last. That would be wonderful. It needs one of those two to feel like you're closing a chapter in this. Is it very idealistic? Is it a little too on the nose? Maybe, but I feel like this show is kind of cringe. This show is kind of cheesy. This show is a little bit of like a mush fest. It needs that, okay? It needs that. They can have like a ghost Suzannah in the corner, you know? I just hope the movie is done well and done with love and isn't just like a cash grab. Because I fear that that might be where it was going. Like I have faith because so far it had felt right up until the last 3 episodes, which don't have like straight from the book moments, which may be why it felt different. But up until that point, it felt very special. The whole show feels in many ways very nostalgic, even if I am watching it for the first time as an adult. Again, I only read the first book after the season 1 came out, but again, they feel very nostalgic. Even though I think I was like 19 or 20 when that first season came out. Because I have hopes and I have wishes and I hope they're met because of, as of right now, this season was great. Give it like a solid 8 because there was like 3 episodes that I was not the biggest fan of. But other than that, I loved. And if this movie could do the entire show justice, that'll get bumped up. And in case you care to know what is coming up next in this account, we've said goodbye to summer and we're saying hello to fall with the I actually don't think that's what the notes in that song are. I'm reading Twilight for the first time. That should be fun. I'm going to record some thoughts, some reactions. I want to experience that book for the first time. I think it would be very fun if you want to stick around, if you want to subscribe, like, do all the things. Feel free to do so. I hope you have a great day and a wonderful week, and I will see you next time. Bye!